Shalom, I'm Rabbi Michael Panitz. I'm the rabbi of Temple Israel of Norfolk, Virginia, and I'm speaking to you from the pulpit of our congregation. At this time, I'm going to describe a new religious observance. This is an observance taking root amongst secular Israeli Jews. A new religious observance. Every week, I have a Hebrew conversation with a delightful young Israeli language coach. This is how I raise my own level of fluency in spoken Hebrew up to the level of reading comprehension that my career of Hebrew textual involvement has fostered. My coach, a graduate student in psychology, is a secular Israeli Jew. We have interesting conversations about religion and, in particular, about Judaism. The voluntary Judaism of North America, voluntary, no one forces us to be Jewish. And this is thanks to our separation of church and state, is not her reality. For her, Jewish observance in the public square is on account of hard-edged maneuvering on the part of Orthodox and ultra-Orthodox political parties. Those observances do not speak to her soul, and the coercive manner in which Israel's religious camp has chosen to pursue its hold on the public has only alienated the large majority of Israeli Jews, including my coach. Not surprising to me, therefore, was her reply to my question about her knowledge of the Jewish fast day of Tisha B'Av, the 9th day of the 5th month of the year, the month of Av. She was aware that the two Jerusalem temples were both said to have been destroyed on that date, but she did not know of other later calamities that befell Jews on Tisha B'Av outside the land of Israel, such as the deliberate dating of the Spanish expulsion by King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella for Tisha B'Av 1492. She does not fast on Tisha B'Av, although she does observe Yom Kippur. She celebrates Hanukkah and Purim. She has a Passover Seder. She's warmed to the notion of a special family gathering for the Friday night Shabbat meal. Clearly, secularism for her means a pattern of observance that would place her largely at home in our North American Jewish world. But because the defining example of Jewish religion for her is coercive and political, it leaves her alienated. A remoteness from Tisha B'Av does not mean that she's insensitive to moments of sadness on the public calendar. The Holocaust Remembrance Day and the Day of Remembrance for Israelis fallen in defense of the country are both important moments in her annual cycle of days. But Tisha B'Av did not cross the barrier in her mind and in the mind of a majority of Israelis, barring entry to Jewish traditions that they deem no longer appropriate to their modern life as citizens of a sovereign state on their own soil. This was the norm among secular Israelis until right now, until this year. 5 years ago, Professor Camille Fuchs conducted a survey of Israelis on behalf of the Jewish People Policy Institute. His survey revealed that secular Jews essentially do not visit the Kotel, the western wall of the Jerusalem temple compound, on Tisha B'Av, which for the religious is absolutely a pilgrimage. A majority of secular Jews responded to the survey by saying it's just a regular day, Tisha B'Av. But this year, 2023, 5783 in the Jewish calendar, all that is changing. Secular Israelis are making a commitment to fast on Tisha B'Av. They call it a hunger strike. They've been gathering in tents strategically placed at junctions and overlooking historically significant sites. In these gatherings, they've been embracing the pledge to fast this year on the 9th day of Av. The new development has a founder responding to a challenge. The founder is Mirik Snir, an acclaimed Israeli children's author. The child of a kibbutz born during the 1948 War of Independence, a veteran teacher, an award-winning children's author, Mirik Sneer has exemplified the space for humane values and biblical engagement within secular Israeli Jewish ranks. Sneer's call to fast this coming Tisha B'Av is resonating through secular Israeli circles and is becoming a movement because of the large-scale opposition to the judicial reforms being pushed through by the Netanyahu government in Israel. While the proponents of those judicial reforms, commanding a slim majority in the Knesset, Israel's parliament, believe that they are curbing the excessive and unregulated independence of the Israeli Supreme Court, the opponents of the reform fear that those reforms will be removing the most effective guardrail preventing Israel from careening off the roadway of democracy and into the gulch of tyranny. This issue has roiled Israeli life since the early months of 2023, and now that the Netanyahu government has passed the first bill in its package of judicial reform legislation, the sense of crisis is acute in the minds of the many thousands of opponents engaged in public demonstrations. My goal in this meditation is not to pass judgment on the relative merits of the arguments against the existing Supreme Court on the one hand and the arguments against the reforms on the other. Rather, I am pointing to the unexpected strength of Jewish tradition when circumstances allow it to speak to new groups of Jews with new urgency, fasting on the 9th of Av. Fasting on Tisha B'Av has not engaged wide groups of Jews in the United States either beyond the Orthodox denomination. A poll last week by the Pittsburgh Jewish Chronicle disclosed that 3/4 of the respondents did not fast on this day. On the other hand, those Jewish summer camps that are dedicated to Jewish living, not just Jewish associationalism, have placed a key role in giving today's younger and middle-aged American Jews a sense of the importance of Tisha B'Av. Whatever may be one's theological stance, Tisha B'Av can remind us that our people have suffered tragedies and that we ought to ponder that history. The fast day can be a time of elevation of one's attention to the voice of conscience. I would like to suggest that we heed carefully the legend that the rabbis taught about the cause of the Tisha B'Av tragedy that claimed the Second Temple. They blamed, quote, sinat chinam, baseless hatred, for the tragedy. This rings true. As Jews and also as Americans, we are part of two peoples who have grown so polarized in recent decades that defeating the rival party often supplants the desire to work for the common good. And that surely is a recipe for disasters yet to unfold. Secular Israelis are fasting this Tisha B'Av because they care about the future of the Jewish state. They're onto something important. We often wish each other tzom kal, an easy fast. That is understandable, but it does not get at the heart of the issue. We ought to be wishing each other a, quote, tzom mashma'uti, a meaningful fast. I believe that the Israelis taking up fasting on Tisha B'Av this year are going to experience a meaningful fast. And that is what I wish for all of us.